الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book of Akhsar Al-Mokhtasarat, and we stopped by the fasl, the chapter of Al-Wakala. And before we start, a reminder for myself and everyone, again, to be patient when it comes to seeking knowledge and studying matters of the deen. Anything that is haqq, that is true, and upon the truth, you will find all kinds of sawarif or distractions, because the shayateen al-ins wal jinn, this is their objective in this life, is to take people away from the haqq, from the truth. So there's no such a thing. It can never be perceived that al-haqq would come at ease. A person has to put effort. It has to go against his own desire. And the more the sacrifice is, the more benefit a person gets. And this is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's a rewardable thing till a person makes it his norm. And one of the distractions is the fitan of even matters of deen, that the ummah is in need of this and that. The ummah is in need of this more than anything else, which is the ilm, to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and to be patiently learning it and to apply it and to call people to be upon it, inshallah. And with regards to the book, to be patient with whether it's difficult, with the language of it. And again, we, at this, inshallah, level, we're more concerned about the meaning of it, so in English, but to make sure that we read it in Arabic and to understand every word and to write the meaning of every word, inshallah ta'ala, to take us to the next level, inshallah. So, and if you have any questions, even in the previous ones, please don't hesitate, inshallah. So we stop here at fasl, وتصح الوكالة. Are we there? Can everybody see it? وتصح الوكالة. And الوكالة can be either with the fatha, wakala, or wikala, both with fatah or with kasr. This is the first مسألة. وتصح الوكالة بكل قول يدل على إذن. الوكالة or الوكالة, and we'll stick to that word, inshallah, whenever we need it. So if the meaning is mentioned, then we don't have to repeat the English word all the time, which is basically the, I guess I looked up the translation is to have an agent, to have someone to act on one's behalf. So, and this is, it's a contract between two people. One is called al-asil, the original one, the principal, and you have the agent, al-wakil. So you make a contract with someone that someone will act on your behalf. And this is a huge subject, and it applies in many, many ways. And where they, for example, people do power of attorney and the like of this, where someone else will act on your behalf. Can it be in anything, in any matter, or in only specific matters? And if it is in specific matters, what are some of the rules that applies in the subject of al-wakala? And we're not going to cover every single aspect of it. This is supposed to be the first level of books of fiqh, the most summarized one. The book is called Akhsar Al-Mokhtasarat, the most summarized of the summarizations of rulings. And there's the mutawalat and the lengthy books. This is in the later stage, with more masail, with more matters and evidences and things of that nature. So we just be in brief, inshallah ta'ala, just an understanding and perceiving, imaging, picturing the masail, to understand what is the issue and to get whatever ruling is mentioned and to be satisfied in this level, inshallah. So he says, فَصْلُ وَتَصِحُّ الْوَكَالَةِ. So تصح means it's sahih, it's valid, it's correct. بكل قول, with every قول, with every speech. يدل على إذن. يدل from a dalil, that means any speech that gives an evidence that there's an idhn, there's a permission. So you have the principle, you have the person that is going to make the wakala to someone else. So he has to give a permission. So it's a permission. This is basically, when we say contract, it doesn't have to be a written contract. So someone will give the permission for someone else to act on his behalf. So it becomes valid with every speech, with every qawl. And every qawl that would give the meaning of permission. So he doesn't have to say وكلتك في كذا وكذا. He doesn't have to say I make you my agent in this. Or in Arabic, the love of al-wakala doesn't have to be mentioned. So that's what بكل قول means. With every statement, with every speech that gives is an evidence of one's permission to someone else. And sometimes we would add something, as Ramad mentioned, especially if it's something that is widespread. Here it says بكل قول. That means no fi'l. And as we said, we learned from the mutun that the ulama are very precise. They said بكل قول. Did not say fi'l, didn't say actions. So can a person with an action gives a permission for someone else to act on his behalf? According to this, no. There's a difference of opinion in this. But say, for example, if someone is in the business of he sells people's things, someone has the car comes in as an example. Someone has a car lot, and the cars, it's known that this guy does not own anything. He just sells other people's cars, right? So this is what is known, and this is what everybody deals with him. They know this very well. So someone comes and he wants him to act on his behalf to sell the car. So he comes and he put the car in the car lot and he give him the key and leaves. Right? He did not say anything. But according to بكل قول, he can just say, I got my car for you, sell it for me. Or it doesn't have to say, he doesn't have to say sell it for me. Everything is clear. So here's my car. May Allah make it easy for it, inshallah. Sure, don't worry about it, things like this, right? So or can he just give the keys and it's understood by his actions that this guy now is his agent in selling his car. So this is the issue of al-qawl wal-fi'l. So this is a mas'ala. What makes the wakala is بكل قول يدل على إذن. So anything as long as it gives the meaning of idhn or permission, because no one has the permission to sell other people's properties or things like that unless they give him the permission. He says وقبولها. So this is to make the wakala, to give someone else the permission to act on one's behalf. وقبولها, and to accept it. Like if you want someone to act on your behalf, he has to accept it. Otherwise, you can say, you give someone something. He says, I وكلتك في كذا, and he refuses, then he has the right to refuse, of course. So how to accept it? بكل قول أو فعل دال عليه. Here al-qabul, to accept it with every speech, every statement, and every action. Here the action is mentioned. دال عليه, that gives an evidence that he is accepting the wakala. Clear? So as you see, they make differences between al-idhn, or giving the permission, versus accepting the wakala. It can be with any statement or any actions. So the action can be that he start acting. The one guy says, وَكَلْتُكَ فِي كَذَا, I give you the permission to act on my behalf. And then he goes and he start acting on his behalf. This is the sign of his acceptance. Or with any statement. Clear? So this is the mas'ala of how the wakala, there's as if it's like marriage, ijab or qabul, offering and acceptance. So wakala with every statement, بكل قول, when we read the Arabic, we need to understand every word of it. بكل قول يدل على إذن وقبولها, and its acceptance. بكل قول أو فعل دال عليه, with every speech and action, or action that proves or as an evidence for it. Clear? And then he says وشرط. وشرط فما الشرط. But what's شرط means? It's a condition, but here in the passive tense. So وشرط, that means it's a condition. So not شرط. You can say وشرط, that's a condition. But وشرط in the past tense, or in something that it's been conditioned. كونها أو كونهما جائزي التصرف. وشرط It's already been conditioned. It's a urwa shartun. You can say it like this. كونهما in the dual tense. That which means what? The al-asil wal-wakil. The principal and the wakil. That both of them. كونهما, you cannot, can you translate كونهما alone? That they both, or something like that. كونهما, that the fact that they are both جائزي, this is in the dual tense, مثنى. جائزي from جائز, التصرف. It's permissible for them to do التصرف. What is التصرف? Buying and selling is a surah from التصرف. It's one's dealing with things, right? That would أحكام شرعية would be affected by the تصرف. That means the person, his ability to be able to deal with wealth. Buying, selling, giving gifts, whatever the value, something that has a value, he is جائز التصرف. That means he is someone that is not a slave, he's a free man, he's عاقل, he's sane, he's not safi, he's not majnoon, he's بالغ, he's age of puberty and above, not a child. So someone that can deal with the money, that would lead to some ahkam as a result of that. So جائزي التصرف. So both of them. So of course someone, a child cannot make wakala for someone else. And a child cannot be a wakil for someone else. But of course the things that are easy, if a father gives a child money to get something for the father, this is a form of wakala, right? But it's something easy. He's going to buy it by himself. And of course, the evidences of that in the Quran and the Sunnah is there. Even in, as I mentioned, in Surah Al-Kahf, when the people of the cave, they send one of them to buy something. So he's wakil, he's acting on their behalf. And the Prophet ﷺ, the famous hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Ja'd al-Barqi that a Sahabi, Prophet ﷺ gave him a dinar to buy for him a shah, a goat. So he went and he purchased a shah with the dinar and he sold it for 2. So he came back and he sold one and he came to the Prophet ﷺ with a dinar and a shah. The Prophet ﷺ gave him 1, so he returned with 1 and a shah because he bought and sell in the market, so he got 2. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him, and it was said that he would get money if he sell dust. Wherever he sells something, he makes lots of money. So this is wakala, and how he acted, even though he was given the license to purchase 1. But that's why one of the things that's going to be mentioned, if it's going to be for the benefit of the asil, of the principal, inshallah is good. He would like that he comes with the money and another share. But anyway, so this is something that happened. And the Prophet, as it's going to show in the types of things, when the Prophet ﷺ made Ali radiallahu anhu to slaughter the camel on behalf of the Prophet ﷺ, what we do in the udhiyah for the Eid, you can have someone act on your behalf, even though it's a ibadah for yourself. So there are certain things that you can have someone to act on your behalf. This is all in the chapter of Al-Wakala. So وَشُرِطَ كَوْنُهُمَا جَائِزِي التصرف. Both of them are جائزي التصرف. One is جائز التصرف, 2 جائزي التصرف. ومن له تصرف, the next one, ومن له تصرف في شيء فله توكل وتوكيل فيه. A very obvious one. ومن له تصرف. Whoever is for him تصرف. Again, he has the right to deal with money, to buy and sell and to give gifts, and he is not majnoon and so on. ومن له تصرف في شيء, in anything, therefore فله, he has the right to توكل وتوكيل فيه. He has the right to for someone to make him as a wakil, and he has the right to make someone else as a wakil. So فله توكل, that means someone would entrust him to act on his behalf, on the other one's behalf, or someone can make him act on one's behalf. Both sides. He can be of both sides. So since it's kind of the previous one كونهما جائز التصرف, so anyone that has تصرف in anything he can have both. Clear? Then he says وتصح فيه. Then the different types of the wakala, what's the wakala is valid in? Is it in all things or in specific matters? The first one he says وتصح في كل حق آدمي. It's valid, it's correct in any human rights, not the human rights as a terminology, but the rights of a human being. That a human being has a right for something, like one's wealth, for example, something that he owns, he has the right to buy, he has the right to sell, something like this, rent, all the financial matters like this. And also when it comes to some of the ibadat, as is going to be mentioned later, but he says with an exception. لا ظهار ولعان وأيمان. لا, that means not. In ظهار. الظهار is when someone swears that his wife, or says to his wife that she is like the back of his mother. So he forbids his wife on him. No one can act on someone's behalf. No one is to say, for example, he says to a guy, go say to my wife that she is such and such. For him to say it on his behalf. Because it's, first of all, it's haram. So it's not permissible for him to do something haram for someone else's behalf. Plus it's something that it's his own evil action. Right? So لا ظهار ولعان. اللعان is when a husband accuses his wife of having committed zina. So they would come in front of the judge and make li'an, as it's mentioned in Surah An-Nur, the curse with, both of them bring the curse upon the liar. So this is what al-li'an from al-la'an. So no one is to act on one's behalf in this. So if the husband is not there, can a lawyer, for example, he stand in front of the judge and he make the li'an between himself and the wife that is accused for zina? No, it's not permissible because al-li'an is ayman. It's taking an oath, which is a rule. No one is to act on someone's behalf and taking an oath. Right? So that's why ayman. Ayman is like the plural of al-yamin, which is taking an oath. So it is not permissible for someone to act on someone's behalf to take an oath. So again, if a lawyer is acting on someone's behalf and it's supposed to be the criminal or the accused is supposed to swear in front of the judge, can the lawyer swear on his behalf? No. He has to swear himself. And this is at all times. Al-Yamin, if someone is asked to make an oath or to take an oath, it is not to be acted upon. No one can act on his behalf in this. So لا ظهار ولعان وأيمان. Clear? Any yamin, any oath, anything that a person required to say wallahi by Allah, no one can act on his behalf. It is not permissible to have someone else to be wakil, to act on his behalf in this. Because it's a right upon him and has nothing, even though it's a right for himself, but it cannot be transferred to someone else. Like, for example, anything that has ayman. If someone is accused of stealing and there's no bayina, there's no evidence. So he brought in front of the judge or so, and judge will say to him, swear by Allah that you didn't steal. He says, my lawyer will swear on my behalf. No, it's not permissible. He has to swear, not someone act on his behalf. So وتصح في كل حق آدمي لا ظهار ولعان وأيمان وفي كل حق لله تدخله النيابة. And every حق, it's valid in any حق, any right to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تدخله النيابة, that النيابة or acting on behalf of someone is valid in it. So حقوق Allah, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are many. Salah is حق of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon a person. Can someone pray on someone's behalf? No. Fasting, can someone fast on someone's behalf? No, unless a person dies and he has some fast, that's a different situation. So that's why not all haqq of Allah, it's the huquq of Allah that is valid to act upon or to act for on someone's behalf. Like, for example, giving the zakah. And this would be in the different chapters of the fiqh. Can someone give your zakah, act on your behalf? but someone can he pays you zakah on your behalf, meaning from his own money. This is with the permission of the one that gives the zakah, yes. But can he, pays it or makes it reach those who are in deserves it with the wakala? Yes, and of course with the intentions has to be there. Sadaqat, someone acts on your behalf to give sadaqat. This is all matters of ibadah. So the niyaba is valid in it. And niyaba is like a wakala, but here someone yanub and someone else. Someone is acting on someone else's behalf. And then he mentioned here وهي وهي meaning these حقوق to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also وشركة ومضاربة ومساقاة ومزارعة ووديعة وجعالة عقود جائزة لكل فسخها. So وهي meaning الوكالة, and شركة we'll talk about it. This is I think the next chapter. شركة is partnership. The word sharika is used now for company, but it refers to partnership. Mudaraba is part of the partnership. Mudaraba, when someone is in a partnership in a sharika, one's with money and the other one with his effort, with his talents, with his effort. So this other contract also, ومساقاة, and musaqa is the share cropping. When crops, one works on the land and one is the owner of it. So there's a deal here between both. Muzara'a is the same thing, but with a zara, with the planting. Wadi'a is when you have what's the wadi'a in English? When you keep something at a place, like when you have a valuable thing and you keep it in the bank in a safe. What they call this? Yeah. Deposit, something that is deposit box or something that is to be kept for someone as a wadi'a, but without riba, of course. وجعالة, and ju'ala is when someone get a commission or some form of a value as a result of a work that he's done. So this is ju'ala. All of these contracts and the wakala, عقود جائزة. عقود, these are عقود. عقود is the plural of عقد. We don't have to know the details of all of these عقود because it's going to be mentioned inshallah later. But al-wakala and also these other contracts are عقود جائزة. جائزة means what? What's jaiz? Permissible. But that's not what it means here. It's permissible, yes. And other عقود are permissible. Buying and selling, it is permissible. But what's the difference between selling something as a عقد versus al-wakala as a عقد? This is a very important thing in عقود. Some عقود are جائزة and some عقود are لازمة. Remember لازمة? Binding. Once a person sells something, he cannot take it back unless the other guy give him permission, of course. But that's why عقد لازم. It's binding contract. But al-aqd al-jaiz, that means a person after he make the contract, anytime he can break it. Anytime he can break the contract. Like al-wakala, you make a aqd of wakala, you have someone to act on your behalf, someone be an agent on your behalf, and you did it today, and then tomorrow you say, you know what, I'm breaking this contract. If you do it by the authorities, you do it in front of a judge or something, you have the right the next day to go cancel it, which is a very obvious thing, right? You have what do they call it? Power of attorney, for example. Can you cancel the power of attorney anytime you want? I think you can, right? You can, because this is you're having someone else to act on your behalf, and that guy, you find out that he's a thief, right? So you go cancel it. You have the right to do that. So this is the meaning of عقد جائز. Jaiz here, it does not mean that it's permissible to do. It means that it's permissible to break at any time you want. It's not binding contract. So the same thing with the sharika, which is an issue. If people have partnership, they get together to have a partnership to open a business. Sharika fil asl, in its principle, it's عقد جائز. Anybody can can quit anytime. Of course, they have to find or figure a way of how to get him out if he wants to get out of the company. But this by itself, as far as the practice of it, as some of the ulama they mentioned, if it causes harm to the partnership, they can stipulate that it's binding for a certain some certain time or with certain situation, so that they don't harm the rest of the company. For example, if they're a partnership and each one put a certain amount of money, and then they start using the money to build their company, and then someone says, I want my money out, but there's no money, or things might harm them. So, but in principle, it's عقد جائز. You can break it anytime you want. And the same thing with the mutaraba and musaqa and so on. So this is the meaning of عقود جائزة. The details of that and avoid the harm and things like this is another detail. So one of the things that when we go through the عقود and go from the very beginning of the different types of contracts, try to categorize them with being عقد لازم versus عقد جائز. Right? Is it لازم or جائز? And that's why عقود جائزة لكل فسخها. For both sides, لكل فسخها. الفسخ is to terminate it, to break it. Clear? So we read that again. وتصح في كل حق آدمي لا ظهار ولعان وأيمان وفي كل حق لله تدخله النيابة وهي وشركة ومضاربة ومساقاة ومزارعة ووديعة وجعالة عقود جائزة لكل فسخها. Is this clear so far? طيب. The next one. ولا يصح بلا إذن. Some things. ولا يصح. It's not correct. It's not valid without permission. Number one, بيع وكيل لنفسه. بيع, selling, وكيل. Who's the وكيل? The agent. لنفسه, to himself. Right? Without permission. So that means if the principal, if al-asil, he gives the wakil, his car, sell my car on my behalf. So the wakil, the agent, I like the car. So he sells the car to himself. He says, I'm wakil. And the wakil has the same rulings as the asil. He's acting on his behalf. It's not permissible to sell it to himself unless he's given the permission. So without permission, you cannot do that. And of course, it's obvious why, right? Because there's tuhma here. He might do himself a favor. So he's supposed to act on behalf of the asil, on the principle, for the best of what, for the best for the asil, for the principle. He's supposed to do the best for him. But if he says it to himself, then he might do what is best for himself, not what's best for the principle or for the guy that he gave him the wakil, right? So that means he did not act upon what the wakil should act upon. Clear? So ولا يصح بلا إذن بيع وكيل لنفسه. A wakil selling something for himself, to himself. Clear? And the second one, the opposite, which is also clear. ولا شراؤه منها لموكله. ولا شراؤه منها لموكله. His muwakkil is the one that gave him the right to act on his behalf. This is the muwakkil. Al-asil, or the principle, is called muwakkil because he's making a tawkil for the other guy. And al-wakil is the one that receives the tawkil. He's the one that is acting on his behalf. So the muwakkil, he told him, buy a car for me, not sell. He gave him money, gave him $1,000, tell him, buy a car for me. Whatever car you see fit, good. It doesn't have to be very specific with that specific car. You can say, whatever you're expert in this, get me a good car. So then what is meant here is that now the wakil, it is not permissible for him to sell his own car to the muwakkil. So he got the money. Oh, I have a car, so I can sell it to him. So he would make the deal with his own self like this, and he comes to him and says, hey, I got you a nice car. It's my car, and the deal is done. It is not permissible except unless he give a permission. unless he permits and give him the permission to do that. And of course, it's the same reason as the one before, because he would do himself a favor, or he might be in that category when they say مظنة التهمة. That means he might be accused of this. Doesn't have to be that he's going to do that for sure. He might do this, and he's doing it for what is best for the muwakkil, right? He's a nice guy, and he's doing what is best for him. But you're putting yourself in a situation where people might think otherwise, accuse you, and they always the rulings expecting if there is a khusuma, if there is a dispute, to always expect what happens if there's a dispute. So in any dealing that a person gets into it, what if a dispute happens? How are they going to fix the dispute? So a person has to act according to this. Don't expect, oh, he's my brother, we pray together, mashallah, put that aside. When you're doing a contract, you forget about brotherhood and goodness and all of these things when you make a contract, to make sure that it's clear in and clear way out. And it's, yes, you deal with people with the brotherhood feelings and actions and so on, but the contract, you don't put these things as an element to it, because you might be, shaitan works, and people might make you think, or they accuse you of something. So what happens if there is a dispute? Clear? So ولا يصح بلا إذن بيع وكيل لنفسه ولا شراؤه منها لموكله. Is the wording of it clear? And more. Well, this is not the end of it. وولده and his son. ووالده and his father. ومكاتبه, the owner if he's a slave. Right? Or his slave, I'm sorry. Someone that has a deal, that means he's going to benefit from it. All of these كنفسه. They act all of these three like his own self. So the same thing, he cannot sell the car to his father. He's a wakil, and he told me I can sell the car on his behalf, and my father wants a car, so I sell the car to my father. No, it's not permissible unless you get a permission. His father is like his own self, and his son is the same way, because it's the same illah, it's the same reason. He might do a favor for his father or his son or so, or mukatabuhu, and not the wakil. كنفسي. So all of these people كنفسه. What's كنفسي refer to? Since he said ولا يصح بلا إذن بيع وكيل لنفسه ولا شراؤه منها لموكله, and those who are mentioned here كنفسه. It's like the same ruling as his own self. الولد والولد والمكاتب. And mukatab is, remember, when a slave has a contract with his master or owner that he would free himself if he pays a certain amount of money. So now he wants the guy wants to free himself. So that's a good deal. Maybe he will buy something from him or something like this. Please. المكاتب المكاتب is the one that is the owner, and then المكاتب is the slave. No. Anyone from his family, or just anything that is it any of his family? What's mentioned here الولد والوالد, الأصول والفروع, what's above and what goes down. But anything that might bring the tuhma is accusation, then it should be avoided. So it might be his buddy, his closest friend or something, people might think of, oh, why especially him? So anyone that might people think that he's doing a favor to them more than the muwakkil or the asil, then this might be disputed. But these are the ones that are specific. They are act as if it's his own nafs. Is it clear? Then after that, وَإِنْ بَاعَ بِدُونِ ثَمَنِ مِثْلٍ. Now this is an if statement. If وَإِنْ بَاعَ, باع means if he sold, بدون, without, ثمن مثل. ثمن is what? The price. مثل means the like of what he's selling. ثمن المثل, we took that before. He's selling a car year 2001, this model, this make, whatever. So the price or the value of it is 1,000. This is ثمن المثل. The like of these cars goes between 1,000, 1,200, something like this. So if the wakil, he sells it different than the price of al-mithl. He sells it for 100. Something like this. When it's the ثمن المثل, the like of this thing, its value in the market is 1,000, and he sold it for 500, sold it for 400. He has the right because he's wakil. He doesn't have to go take a permission. The price is this. Should I sell it? Since he's wakil, he can do whatever he wants. He's already given the authority to sell it, right? So if that happens and he sold it and now it's already with the purchaser and it's binding. It's binding. The contract is binding between the wakil and the buyer because he acted rightfully on behalf of the one that gave him the permission. Correct? So what happened then in this case? So the contract is valid. Or before we get to know the ruling, or the opposite. أو اشترى بأكثر منه. Or he purchased بأكثر with more than منه, meaning ثمن المثل. More than the price of the like of it. So the guy gave him 1,000 and he told him, get me a car. And he did not specify what car. So the car is worth 500, but he paid 1,000 for it. So he paid more what the normal price of the car is. So that means who's losing here? The asil. He did not act for the benefit of the asil. He purchased the car for far more than what it's worth. So basically these two cases here, that means the wakil did not do what is benefiting for, as far as the norm is concerned, to his muwakkil. What's the ruling? He says صح. صح, that means it's valid because he acted on his behalf. Because now the dhimma or the thing is now it's someone else's, he owns the car now. So you cannot say this contract is void because someone already purchased it in the right way. But then what do we do with this case? وضمن زيادة أو نقص. ضمن, what's ضمن? الضمان. Guarantee, but what does the word guarantee means? ضمن in the fiqh means that he has to compensate الزيادة أو النقص. ضمن what? Either الضمان to the entire thing. That means when we say ضمن كذا, that means he guaranteed. What does that mean? That means he has to give it all back, or the price of it, or the value of it. But here ضمن زيادة. So he guaranteed that he gives the extra. Or أو النقص, or the less. So in these two cases. So the first one, he sold it less than the price of the norm. So if the case it's worth 1,000 and he sold it for 500. So the deal is valid, but then he gives to the asil, to the muwakkil, how much? 500. He has to give him 500. And أو الزيادة أو اشترى بأكثر منه, it's supposed to, he gave him 1,000 to purchase a car, but he purchased what's the value of the car is 500, he purchased with 1,000. So he has to give him 500. And this is, of course, I mean, a person will say, well, I don't want to act on someone's behalf. But that's why it's ثمن مثل. So ثمن المثل is not necessarily one price. It's within the norm. There's a high number in the market and the lowest number in the market. So if he buys within this range and there's no accusation of any sort, then it's valid. But if it's something beyond any of this, then he should have not acted on his behalf. Is it clear? So وإن باع بدون, بدون here is less. Because بدون can be different according to the context. وإن باع بدون ثمن مثل, the ثمن of the like of it. أو اشترى بأكثر منه, or he purchased more than what it's worth. صح. So the ruling here, two things. صح, the contract is صحيح, and وضمن, he has the ضمان that he has to give back زيادة أو نقص. Please. We'll take one more. But the 3 points is related to each other. ووكيل مبيع. ووكيل مبيع. Who's the wakil? the agent. And what's the other one is called? Asil or muwakkil, right? And that's why even in the court, when the attorney, when he speaks, he says muwakkili. What do they say in English in the court? When the attorney speaks, my client. So yes, so he says my client, but in Arabic they say muwakkili. What my client means. But is it informative as muwakkili? Yeah, right. But see, in Arabic, in that case, it's understood, right? But in Arabic, they say, we would say, Siyadatul Qadi, sir, the judge, Muwakkili did this and this, or I'm acting. So there's Muwakkil. He's Muwakkil. Is him or the Muwakkili? No, so this is the Muwakkil and that's the Wakil. So we have here Wa and Wakilu Mabi'. Mabi' is what? Talked the Mabi' before. Mabi' is what? The object that is being sold or purchased. This is the Mabi'. Al-Bay' is buying and selling. Mabi' is the actual object, the item. So Wakilu Mabi'in. Someone was Wakil to sell something or to purchase something, right? Either way, but here, because you mentioned الشراء. وَوَكِيلُ مَبِيعٍ يُسَلِّمُهُ. So if someone is acting on someone else's behalf to sell something, it's by default, يُسَلِّمُهُ, that means he would hand it over the one that he sold it to. So because the person would say his tawkil or his this issue of acting on one's behalf is only to sell. So I sold you the car, and that's it. There's the guy, he needs to take the car. So it's by default that he needs to give him the car. Not to say my job is just to sell the car to you and you figure out with the asil how you're gonna get the car. So why you're acting on his behalf? You act on his behalf to sell the car and to give me the car. Yes. Right? وَوَكِيلُ مَبِيعٍ يُسَلِّمُهُ. He gives it, he hands it over. The mabi'. وَلَا يَقْبِضُ ثَمَنَهُ إِلَّا بِقَرِينٍ. But then يَقْبِضُ ثَمَنَهُ, and the wakil is not to take the thaman or the price except with a qarina, with a sign or an evidence that he has the right to do so. Taking the money is something else. Maybe the asil or the muwakkil doesn't want the wakil to take the money, right? So he's gonna sell it and he's gonna give it to the purchaser. But when it comes to the money, of course, usually he will give the money and then he gives the money. But there has to be qarina with the money because the money can cause disputes. So the norm is that he would take the money and give it to the asil. But that's why the word says qarina. Qarina is much lesser than a permission. Right? Al-qarina is what? An evidence that he can take the money. So of course this is even mentioned here, even though that some had said he does not take the money except by the permission. But the qarina here is, it's obvious, it's known that he would take the money. And then ويسلم وكيل الشراء الثمن. This is in selling. So when you sell on someone's behalf, the money, you give the item to the buyer, right? يسلمه. But to take the money, there has to be an evidence that you can, right? And this has difference of opinions. But then it's different then. ويسلم وكيل الشراء الثمن. وكيل الشراء, now وكيل الشراء, the wakil of purchasing, he's given the power to purchase something for him, right? He's acting on someone's behalf to purchase something. So he's going to the car dealership. He's not purchasing for himself, he's purchasing for his client, for his muwakkil. In that case, when he's purchasing, He says ويسلم وكيل الشراء الثمن. He has to give the money, otherwise there's no shira. You understand? So if basically it's different than selling. If he's purchasing and he goes to the car dealership and he says, I'm acting on someone's behalf and he's going to purchase this car, and that's a proof that I'm his wakil. So the guy says, sure, where's the money? He has to give him the money. He cannot say, well, or he does not have to wait for an evidence or a qarina, because this is an obvious thing for a shira. It's different than purchasing. So that's why they differentiate or makes this difference between al-bay' or shira in this matter when a person is acting on someone else's behalf. Is it clear or it's not clear? So ووكيل مبيع يسلمه, he's selling. يسلم the item, he gives the item. ولا يقبض ثمنه إلا بقرين. He does not take the money unless there's an evidence or a permission or something. But then ويسلم وكيل الشراء الثمن. If he is wakil in selling, in purchasing, I'm sorry, الشراء, in purchasing, then he has to give the price. Is it clear?
What if the price is less than what the Asil gave him money? So
If the Asil gave him less money than what's the item is the price of it, then he cannot sell it, or he would say I'll give you back the money, the rest, for example. But and he doesn't have to pay anyway, right? But it doesn't mean that he has to give the price, but it means it is not required a permission, right? So the norm is that you would pay. Sometimes he doesn't pay, and it's going to be a deferred payment. That's fine. But what is meant by these two mas'alas here, that does it require to have a permission or no? If he's purchasing on someone's behalf, it by default does not require a permission that he would give the thumb. You have to give the thumb. It does not need a permission for that because it's an obvious thing. Different than al-mabi', then he sold it and then instead of him taking the money, he can just give it directly to him. We can stop here, inshallah, for this. Let's read it first together, inshallah. And while we're reading it, please make sure that you understand every word, and if you don't, then ask me, inshallah. Say وتصح الوكالة بكل قول يدل على إذن، وقبولها بكل قول أو فعل دال عليه، وشرط كونهما جائزي التصرف، ومن له تصرف في شيء فله توكل وتوكيل فيه، وتصح في كل حق آدمي، كل حق آدمي لا ظهار ولعان وأيمان، وفي كل حق لله تدخله النيابة، وهي وشركة ومضاربة ومساقات ومزارعة ووديعة وجعالة عقود جائزة لكل فسخها، ولا يصح بلا إذن بيع وكيل لنفسه ولا شراؤه منها لموكله وولده ووالده ومكاتبه كنفسه، وإن باع بدون ثمن مثل أو اشترى بأكثر منه صح وضمن زيادة أو نقصا. ووكيل مبيع يسلمه ولا يقبض ثمنه إلا بقرينة، ويسلم وكيل الشراء الثمن. Is it clear? Any question؟ في الطلاق نعم، in marriage, in divorce, in الرجعة كذلك. You can have someone to act on one's behalf in marriage and without even specifying who he wants to marry. If he says to someone, sees someone he trusts, get me married. So that person can go find a nice wife for him, right? Of course, the family of the wife, they have to deal with knowing that guy and things like this. But the guy doesn't know who he's getting himself married to. He can get him married in principle. The past used to people, they don't have too much problems. They're content. They're not having high standards of things, right? And the same thing, the same thing with a talaq, with divorce. You can have someone to divorce his wife on his behalf, to say that, and the same thing with a raj'ah, with the returning his wife after divorce. All these things, the Al-Wakala is valid. That's why people, they sometimes use attorneys for these types of things. No. No. So al-wakala is valid in any rights of Allah that is permitted to act on someone's behalf in it. And it's left open like this because it's in the different chapters of fiqh, like in marriage, in talaq, but haqq lillah also, like zakah, these types of things. So this is not every haqq lillah, because salah is not valid for someone to act on someone's behalf. So that's why تدخله النيابة take care of that it's not for everything. Anything that is a niyaba can be part of it. A niyaba, a naib is the vice, is the one that acts on someone's behalf.
Having right about the substitution at the
Nah, any rights of Allah that substitutions is valid to be part of it, yes, someone can act on his behalf. المضاربة is part of الشركة, one of the types of partnership. And then المضاربة is when two people, they get into a contract, one with money and the other side with his effort. So that's a working partner and financial partner, yes. So this is a form of partnership. So why did he mention it separately from a sharika? It's okay. But it's one of the types of sharika, one of the types of partnership. Musaqa, with crops, they share cropping, but from musaqa with things that requires for irrigation and things like this. Muzara with certain plants, with both basically the same. Someone has a land and someone would work on it. The attendance code is always, mashallah. You ready? وكالة لازمة جائزة موكل. This is the attendance code. You can make mistakes, inshallah, and it can be in English or Arabic. Spelling mistakes are okay. So وكالة, it's WAKLAH. لازمة, whether it's LAZEMA or EMA, doesn't matter. جائزة, GAAIZAH. And موكل, MUWAKIL. Is it clear? طيب, should we take actually time is, we didn't take the hadith. Can we, are we in بلوغ المرام or جامع الحكم? بلوغ المرام, right? Okay, so جامع العلوم والحكم. So okay, you got that job ما شاء الله. So this is what وكالة or what kind of عقد is this? We have عقد جائز أو عقد لازم. This is لازم إن شاء الله binding. No. So what's the number? Please. Okay, hadith number 142. Ready? Everybody's there? عن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه قال أو عن أبي ذر رضي الله عنه أن ناسا من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قالوا للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا رسول الله ذهب أهل الدثور بالأجور يصلون كما نصلي ويصومون كما نصوم ويتصدقون بفضول أموالهم. قال أوليس قد جعل الله لكم ما تصدقون إن بكل تسبيحة صدقة وكل تكبيرة صدقة وكل تحميدة صدقة وكل تهليلة صدقة وأمر بالمعروف صدقة ونهي عن منكر صدقة وفي بضع أحدكم صدقة. قالوا يا رسول الله أيأتي أحدنا شهوته ويكون له فيها أجر؟ قال أرأيتم لو وضعها في حرام أكان عليه وزر؟ فكذلك إذا وضعها في الحلال كان له أجر. رواه مسلم. So this hadith أن ناسا some people من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم from the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم قالوا, they said, O Messenger of Allah, O Prophet of Allah, يا رسول الله ذهب أهل الدثور بالأجور. ذهب, they left. أهل الدثور, the people of الدثور. The people of الدثور, the people of money. But it also it means the people of influence, the people of power. They have money, they have status. بالأجور, but he refers to those who have money. So there's always a relationship. بالأجور, they left with the ujur, with the rewards. That means they surpassed us. That means they're ahead of us with the ujur, with the good deeds. Why? يصلون كما نصلي, they pray like we pray. ويصومون كما نصوم, and they fast like we fast. ويتصدقون بفضول أموالهم, and they give صدقة with فضول. الفضل is the extra. They give صدقة with the extra money that they have because they're rich. And this is what now they surpass them with the ujur, with the rewards. قال, so the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, أوليس قد جعل الله, didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made for you لكم ما تصدقون, what you can give charity with? Didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't have anything to give charity with? And then he said, إن بكل تسبيحة صدقة. Indeed, with every tasbih, saying subhanallah, صدقة is charity. وكل تكبيرة, with every takbira, Allahu Akbar, صدقة. And with every tahmida, alhamdulillah, صدقة. وevery tahlila, la ilaha illallah, صدقة. وأمر بالمعروف, to enjoin what is good, صدقة. To say to someone, make your salah, any good deeds, things like this, صدقة. ونهي عن منكر, forbidding an evil, صدقة. وفي بضع أحدكم صدقة. البضع is basically when someone have relations with his wife. And as a result of that, what a human being comes from happens. So وفي بضع أحدكم صدقة. قالوا يا رسول الله, so they said, O Messenger of Allah, أيأتي أحدنا شهوته, one of us will get his shahwa, his desire fulfilled, ويكون له فيها أجر, and you would have ajr as a result of that. It's a desire, so there's no sacrifice, there's no effort. Then the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, أرأيتم, would you see, لو وضعها في حرام, if he puts it in haram, أكان عليه وزر, would there be wizr or sin upon him? So then in this narration, they did not say yes, because it's an obvious one. That means it's yes, it's haram. فكذلك, so the same way, if he puts it, وضعها في الحلال, in the halal way, then كان له أجر. So he will get the reward for it. So the hadith have, of course, great benefits. And one of the great hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that shows all of the ummah are not deprived from good deeds, whether they're rich or poor. Everyone share the good deeds with whatever they have, and it shows the virtue of wealth if it's used in the proper way and to give sadaqah. And the virtue of those who don't, they can share with the wealthy ones by the tasbih, by the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that everything a person with the right intention, he gets reward. And also, if a person does things that are halal, he gets reward because he's doing the halal. So it doesn't have to be that he is renewing his intentions all the time. It is sufficient that he's doing something halal. So even if a person enjoys it, he gets rewards for that because he has a choice to make it in the haram. So stop here, inshallah. Maybe we can talk about the hadith more if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will. But any questions? One or two before because it's time. I should finish earlier than that, so if there's any questions. No questions in there? No questions. طيب بارك الله فيكم. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.